way in hell I was telling my dad, no,
that's
sir,
not a
I was a
conversation.
good girl.
Yeah.
It was definitely not a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
So some of the other questions also include, like, are you a full tithe payer? Do you strive to be honest in all that you do? So they're big on honesty. Do you have any serious sins in your life that need to be resolved with your priesthood authorities as part of your repentance? Do you consider yourself worthy? Do you consider yourself worthy to enter the Lord's house and participate in temple ordinances?
See, this is where my toxic trait came in, because I would lie the whole way through. And then it came to that question, and I was like, I will consider myself worthy. I myself have deemed myself worthy. So yes.
It should be right.
I will go to the temple.
And there's a couple of...
It's important as well. Oh, sorry. Just to touch on one of the questions about, like, if there's any previous sins in your life that you need to have, like, helped resolved with priesthood. What they're referring to there are, like, specifically sexual sins. I think most other things, like, you can just pray about and ask for forgiveness from God yourself. But if you've committed sexual sins, so, like, had sex before marriage, or, masturbated, or, like, committed adultery or anything like that, that can only be resolved by, like, through confession to, like, your bishop, and then it might even progress, like, up to the stake president and stuff. So I think that's really important. Like, the most, like, they're expecting you to devolve your most, like, personal, like, transgressions to these men who are, like, in these places of authority, and they're not trained at all. Like, these are just regular guys that, like, volunteer in these positions. They're not, they could really be anyone, and, like, they're asking literal children these really, like, personal questions, and then like, oh man, I have so many feelings about this.
Well, it's good to note that so in some states of Australia, anyone working with youth and children are required to have it working with a children check, but for a lot of places in the world they're not. There's no background checks, there's no history checks, there's nothing. It's just you could do the job. Go chat with these children alone about their sexuality and their sexual health. Go see if they're having sex.
You don't get to have, like, your parents. Like, your parents aren't there in the room with you. You don't have, like, a young woman's leader. Like, it's just you and this, like, older man that you're having to, like, potentially discuss, like, your very personal, like, sexual, in air quotes, transgressions with. Like, fuck that. Why would anybody do that?
I always remember them telling me that, don't worry, the Lord is in the room with us. And then them also telling me that the Lord will know if I'm lying. So don't lie to them.
It's also good to know that
that's a nice threat.
They also make those rooms very soundproof.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
So there's another bit of food for thought.
There has been a lot of really bad cases come from these interviews. A lot of I remember the word. Grooming. Yeah. Like, it's just set up so perfectly for these kinds of people to thrive in these situations, and without any training from anyone at all, it's just dangerous and inappropriate.
Maybe you should come and see me again on Tuesday. Maybe pop into my office on Sunday. Come and see me. We'll have a chat. It's not hard to have those things start and then nobody know about it. Like, this is, you look at the Catholic Church and the troubles that they've had with, pedophiles and grooming. It's set up to allow that to happen, which is such a dangerous thing.
And all the bishop needs to say to the parents is, oh, they're just having a struggle with this, insert random sin here. So if you can bring them back on Tuesday, and the parents will not question it, they will bring the child back, and
they trust the bishop.
Yeah, because he's the bishop. He's chosen by the Lord. The Lord wouldn't choose someone bad.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. I mean, I think I was lucky enough to have good bishops that I think, were just kind of doing what they thought was right, and they were fine and respectful and whatever. But yeah, I can definitely see that there are a lot of issues with the way it's set up, and absolutely it provides the perfect environment for like pedophiles to be able to do whatever they want in that kind of position. So
we're not saying that every bishop is a pedophile,
really
but
I have had
not at all,
many lovely bishops.
It sets it up to be able to have those cover-ups and things like that happen. It's just they shouldn't be put in those situations to start with.
Yeah. Anything else on the interview process?
Not so much interview process, but I guess it's probably worth talking about what happens if you don't meet those guidelines.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Lots of it's not quite so much public shaming, but it's a lot of like
passive aggressive public shaming.
Like,
well, this is something that I'm actually working on my therapist with. She's given me homework like a month and a half ago that I've got to do before tomorrow. Anyway, that's another topic. So Mormons.
It'll be for later tonight.
That'll be later. So Mormons, they have this standard of this gold standard being you're worthy for the temple, and if you don't meet that, you also miss out on other things. So you look at Sunday, they have the sacrament that gets passed, and it's pretty much run by the teenage kids. And if you don't take the sacrament, people notice. If you don't get up there and pass the sacrament or bless the sacrament, people notice, especially if you're one of the key players and there's not a lot of people there. It's like, oh, I can't today. And then everyone's like, what? You're not taking the sacrament? And
it's like what have you been doing? Just like everybody's like, shunk, like what?
It's so embarrassing. And this is the thing, it is public shaming, because it might have been something minor of like, oh, I sipped tea accidentally. I took a sip of my grandmother's tea and I didn't realize, I'm just going to repent of this and I'm just going to sit it out this week. Or it could be anything minor, or it could be made. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, they use this peer pressure and public pressure of shaming to force you to comply. Yeah. And, those that consider themselves not worthy are told to withdraw from these things. And they call them privileges. It's a privilege to pass a sacrament. It's a privilege to take the sacrament. And
it's really a way of public, like you were saying, a way of public shaming. So you like, oh my God, like I have to be good, because taking the sacrament and those kinds of things is meant to be like a rebaptism, which is washing away those sins. So exactly. Wouldn't you think if you had fucked up, it would be more important to take the sacrament? But no.
Yeah. I never really understood. Yeah, and that's what's so fucked up about it. Like, the sacrament is supposed to be, like you said, that re-baptism sort of thing. And like, instead of like when you've committed this transgression that you've had to confess to your bishop and whatever, instead of them being like, okay, look, like God is loving and he is forgiving, take the sacrament and you will be like, your sin will be wiped clean and you'll be able to try again. Like, instead of doing that, they're just like, you can't take the sacrament for 3 weeks, just so that everybody in the ward can see that you've done something wrong.
And we're going to make a point of it. Like, you can't hide from it forever. You will be seen. And that's the thing, is that they're so big on complying and fitting in with the group that, they're basically putting you in solitary confinement. This is why people get traumatized, especially young kids and teenagers. They're traumatized by the things that happen in the church, because it's always such a public thing. One thing will happen and the gossip spreads. Oh, so-and-so didn't take the sacrament today. I wonder what they did. It's such a horrific thing to go through. And I did that a couple of times. Something happened and bishop said, no, don't take the sacrament this week or for 3 weeks or whatever it is. And they were the worst times, because people would notice. I was always up there passing the sacrament, especially when I was in a branch. There was like 2 other U's, and so it was my job to do it. And if I didn't do it, everyone's like, what? Why?
You what, mate?
Yeah.
Because that's the only reason. Like, if you're sick, you're not going to be at church. It's the only reason why you wouldn't be doing it is because you're not worthy.
You're not allowed to. Yeah. No, it's fucked up. It's so bad. All right, so we're just about out of time for today's episode. But did you guys have anything else you wanted to add before we finish up?
I've got one quick little one. So, going back to something we said before, we look at all of this going to the temple as being the epitome of Mormonism. If you don't go to the temple, you can't go to heaven. Now, the Mormon Church always says it's not a pay your way to heaven scheme. But if you're even 1 cent short of your tithing, you can't get a temple recommend because you're not paying a full tithe. And if you can't get a temple recommend, you can't go to the temple and you can't get to heaven. So if you don't pay all of your tithing, the whole 10%, you can't get to heaven. To me, that's a pretty big pyramid scheme.
Yeah.
That's my closing thought.
Mm-hmm.
Very good point. Yeah, you absolutely have to be a full tithe payer to go to the temple. So it doesn't even matter if you answer every question on that interview perfectly. If you are even like a cent short on your tithing, can't get in. So yeah. Anyways, so join us next week.
It'll be next week.
I guess when the next episode comes out, we're gonna talk a little bit more about temples and I guess what actually happens inside the temples. We're going to go into the different ordinances. It's going to get very weird very quick for people who haven't been inside a Mormon temple. You're going to learn a lot. So stay tuned for that.
Don't forget your wine.
Yeah.
And just a little reminder to head over to Facebook and Instagram and follow us at Once Upon a Mormon. That's without spaces for Instagram and with spaces for Facebook for content that is in correlation with what we talk about. I'm pretty excited to start getting that all sorted. So please head over and interact, comment. We'd love to hear from you guys. We also have our email at, I believe it is onceuponamormon@gmail.com. So don't be afraid to shoot us a little email for any questions, or if you want to learn a little bit more about us, or if you have, again, any questions about the temple or things that we talk about or any concerns that you have. We'd love to hear from you all.
It's also important to note that some of the things we do talk about can be distressing. And so if you are struggling, you can always reach out to us, or you can contact your local help centres, and we're more than happy to point you in the right direction for that. Please also give us a thumbs up and a like. We would love to get our message out to more people.
We love you all already. I love you guys. I'm so excited to share this journey with you.
Yes, absolutely. All right, well, join us next week. We look forward to speaking again soon.
Adios.
Bye.